Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. Welcome to Renault E-Ways, a unique event dedicated to the electric mobility of today and tomorrow. An event that brings together men and women who are taking tangible actions to meet the challenges towards zero emissions. We're coming to you from Hangar Y here, an industrial building in Mènent, which is near Paris, and connected with us by the wonders of technology from Silverstone Technical Park, Roger Atkins. Roger, can you hear me? How are you doing, first of all?
I can hear you loud and clear, Louise, and I'm so disappointed I'm not in Paris, one of my favorite cities in the world. But all is well here at Silverstone. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, just to present you in a few words, Roger, you are the founder of Electric Vehicles Outlook Limited. You are LinkedIn's top voice for EV. You're probably the most connected EV specialist with more than 5 million hits on your feed in 2019. I'm already a friend of yours on LinkedIn. Roger has been working in the car sector for 30 years and has been focusing over the last 15 years, of course, on electric cars. So, Roger, as its name suggests, Renault E-Ways aims to explore and open up to new ways of thinking, smart and positive mobility solutions, new ways of producing, of course, new ways of driving, such as e-driving. And the title of our session is Electric Vehicles, the Big Switch. So, first of all, the big switch, what does that actually mean to you? And I believe you declared mass adoption of EVs would be a big mistake. So tell us what you're thinking, what you're meaning by all of that.
Okay. I think there's a big switch underway in many things, in how people work, how people move around, how, what people eat. So lifestyles, I guess you could call that in total. And it isn't just about the pandemic that's on at the moment, but I think that's focused attention hugely on what do we all do? Are we doing the right things? What could we do different and what could we do better? So that big switch is already underway. As regards EVs, I think we are absolutely seeing a big switch, Louise, on commercial electric vehicles. We're seeing many more electric buses, many more electric vans, electric taxis. And it's been in my view for a long time. You talk about how long I've been focused in EVs. That began with an electric truck manufacturer back in 2007. But when you look at the electric vehicle journey in China, for example, a lot of that initially has been focused on those electric buses, commercial vehicle fleets that typically operate urban operating, defined mileage and back to base. And of course, Renault have had some great commercial vehicle offers. The Kangoo has been around for a good time. The Renault Master. The things that I've heard you talking about with others all week really show that that's happening. But the big switch definitely is about a real mindset shift, I think, that is happening all around the world. As to a big mistake of mass adoption of EVs, I'm talking about passenger cars. And again, you've had people talking about this all through the week, about utilization of very expensive assets, electric vehicles that are parked at your home or at work or wherever for a majority of the time. So the utilization of this really significant asset, the battery and the electric vehicle, I think is where we're going to see a shift. We're going to see mass adoption of electric commercials, but passenger cars, I don't think that's going to be a good journey. That's a difficult message to give to an automotive manufacturer like Renault, but I think it's bold and brave of them to be having these discussions and debates and embrace some of the change that could be coming along.
We have had very open discussions with lots of different people all week, and it's been so interesting, and I really admire that as well. So how can we facilitate electric mobility's development? Roger, tell us your ideas on that.
Well, I think education is a fundamental, like with anything really. You always have the perception of something and then the reality of something, and often they're very different things. So I think that the reality for people now is with greater choice of EVs, it isn't just a proposition for wealthy people. It's perfectly understandable that the perception of that has been there because we've had, if you like, the major player Tesla with very nice but very expensive cars, and then you've had other manufacturers coming in with it. And we haven't necessarily been able to show people or illustrate well enough, educate them well enough on the range of EVs that are now available and quickly coming to market. I mean, the best-selling EV, if my memory serves me correctly, in Europe this year to date is the Renault Zoe. And yes, that's not a sub 20,000 euro car. It's a little bit more, but you are getting to the point where it's the opportunity for everybody to be driving an EV. So education is one thing, letting people know where the range of choice now sits, price and otherwise. And I think also in showing people that the journeys that you take, you may rarely and once or twice a year take a long one. And currently with an EV, that can be a challenge still with the charging infrastructure. There's no question about that. But the typical local journeys are pretty easy. You charge at home, or even if you can't charge, charging arena, a lot of journeys are so low, you're hardly using any of the battery very often. So education, I think, is the important thing, and illustrating choice.
Helping people change their mindset, is that correct? So, how do you actually do that? Do you talk about it in the press? Do you go to see people? How do you go about that?
I think you go about it really, Louise, at least by I mean, the common way of doing it these days is influence, I suppose. You know, people that have people are aware of in the public space doing it. So I think whether it's governments with their government fleets, whether it's personalities, you know, I guess celebrities, but not necessarily celebrities, but well-known figures driving and using electric vehicles and showing that, I think that would help considerably. I think that's one of the motivations. For sure, governments should not be buying diesel vehicles or petrol vehicles in the same number. They need to have a managed transition. And we'll talk about that in a minute, because yes, we have, if you like, an evolution underway, which must be speeded up, but we've got to have a balance shift. We've got to have a managed transition to this new world.
Of course. Is a 100% electric mobility world something that's possible, that's realistic?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, for example, if you went back to, I guess, around 1908, when Henry Ford first built the mass production line for the Model T Ford, the cities and towns around the world at that time were literally full of horses. Now, ironically, the issue of the day then was pollution. You could imagine, Louise, and I don't want to be too graphic about this, but thousands and thousands of horses everywhere. Sure. There was always a bit of pollution. But if you said to anybody back then, all of these horses will go and we would just have these horseless carriages, these cars, people probably wouldn't have believed you. But the vision of some of the entrepreneurs of the day and the cooperation and coordination of fueling systems, mass production of vehicles, the ability to make things at the right price. Because let's not forget, one of the mantras of Henry Ford, the founder of the modern automotive proposition, was to make the product cheap enough for his employers who worked at Ford to buy. And so I think that's a lot of where we're going. But it is a managed transition that we have to have. I can't emphasize that enough. We can't just click our fingers and have everybody driving an EV tomorrow, because there are structural changes in energy, structural changes in mobility, personal sort of application to owning things as opposed to using things like you've had on many times during this week. So it's a bit more tricky than people perhaps sometimes suggest it could be.
Is the industry actually ready for a big change, Roger?
To answer a straight question with a straight answer, no. I don't think it is, Louise. I think that we've got real challenges, for example, within the supply chain of batteries. The raw materials of batteries, whether it's lithium, manganese, cobalt, nickel, copper, there are 5 or 6 fundamental minerals that go into the production of batteries, and the supply chains for those don't have the rigor and haven't perhaps had the investigation that the traditional bill of materials for traditional cars have had. So I think we're not ready in that arena. We're not ready in the charging infrastructure proposition yet, because we haven't actually established good interoperability, good connection between payment systems, etc. It's coming and it's happening, but it's taking a long time. So no, we're not ready. And the other area that I definitely would highlight is, I think we need a sort of system like we've had for the last number of years, where a SEA work with the European Union and member states, we should say Europe as a geography, obviously,
sure,
for obvious reasons, because I'm British. Europe as a geography, we need to have a balanced playing field of when we're going to have this shift, when we're going to stop making combustion engine vehicles, because at the moment it's a real muddle. You've got some markets where it's going to finish in 2025, some at 2030, 2035. Yeah. That's so difficult for the auto industry to deal with.
Will we see an end to the combustion engines, Roger, do you think?
Now, this might sound strange, Louise, because we're talking about EVs and you can hear my passion for it. I hope not. Because, for example, I'm here at Silverstone. One of my favorite events in the calendar in a year, well, the normal calendar, obviously not this year, is the classic car show that they have here at Silverstone. You'll have many in Paris, and have many all around the world, where you bring together the best of combustion engine vehicles from the past and recent times, and they're raced. They go out on the track, and the noise, and quite frankly, the smell, all of this stuff I find personally, really exciting and interesting. So I don't think we need to stamp on top of combustion engines in every aspect. We definitely need them to be removed from our towns and cities. We urgently need clean air for people's health, and we must rapidly deal with the challenge of accelerated CO2. But as for finishing the internal combustion engine, no, it's not a zero-sum game.
Okay. So for this urgence for clean air, we also need to maybe step up on better public transport, on shared mobility. Is that correct?
Yes. Again, you've had this theme and flavour throughout the whole event. For sure, we need to have really good public transport. In many cities, let's be honest, it's pretty good, but it needs to be better all the time. It definitely needs to be electric. And in terms of shared platforms, shared mobility, very, very exciting developments there. Some of them have been stumbling, for sure. Everybody probably watching this, a lot of people who focus on this area in particular, know that those businesses haven't been making money and they appear to have failed. But that's the timing sometimes, and simply the business model perhaps, and a few other things. So sometimes it's the right thing, but at the wrong time. So the right time is coming for shared mobility. And let's not forget, Louise, we are very close to having autonomous, shared and connected electric mobility. And this will be a real step change. I would certainly suggest, I think this is the bigger shift, that shift towards autonomy and non-owned passenger cars, than simply the shift from combustion engine to EV.
Fantastic. We're coming to the end of our discussion, Roger, but I'm going to give you the last word. What would you like to say to those that are listening to us today? You've got a really wide audience, consumers, journalists, lots of different people listening to us today. I'll give you the final word.
Right. Well, I think there's a key word: hope over hype. This is a time for a huge reflection. We're living through a moment for all of us with the pandemic where we really are thinking really seriously again about who we are, what we do, how we work, what sort of journeys that we take. And we should use this time, despite it being a crisis and full of many, many problems, to actually take from it very positive things. I think it's going to accelerate the electric vehicle revolution. I think it's going to improve the capability of shared autonomous and electric mobility in general. So I think it's to accentuate the positives, and there are some within this current very challenging time, and move ourselves forward that way. So that would be my definite final message: hope over hype.
Hope over hype. Well, thanks so much, Roger. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today. I hope you're all right there back in the UK. I haven't been since January as a fellow Brit, but I'm thinking of you all over there, of course. If you want to follow all of our content, I suggest you take a look on our website, which is eways.group.renault.com. Roger, thanks again, and goodbye to you all.
Thanks, Louise. Thank you.